This is the Blackout Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Blackout Podcast, where I get to talk to amazing people that do amazing things. And today I have Andrea Lussing. Yeah, got it right. Thanks for coming on the podcast today.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Tell me a bit more about yourself.
Oh, all of it?
All of it.
Well, my name's Andrea. I live here in Halifax, and I think we've discussed a bit of my work. So my work is as a life coach and more recently an EFT practitioner.
EFT
being emotional freedom techniques. So it's a type of energy healing, but it also uses acupressure points. So it's a little bit of anchored in what we already know, and then a little bit of other stuff. Kind of a bit of talk therapy-ish too. Yeah, it's a really cool new tool I'm using. And that's kind of what I do there.
How did you get into the practice?
Well, I guess, it starts back with life coaching. And I had been working at a job that was great, but I just kind of wanted to I just always want to be expanding and kind of more creative and learning new things and kind of growing in different ways. And I'd been in that job for 10 years. So before I left, I did my life coaching training just as something that I could learn from and maybe offer in some capacity at some point in the future. And then, things just kind of came together in a weird way that our funding got transferred to another job. So we got laid off, and I took that as an awesome opportunity to just to take advantage of that and get some support with starting my own business. So then I started doing life coaching. I started that helping women overcome binge eating and overeating. And I guess I found, being a bit more academically inclined and minded, I was doing like a lot of research and really understanding the brain and reward and modern food and, a lot of just reading and doing a lot of that stuff. So I'd approach what people are struggling with from this more rational place. Like you have to make sure you're eating enough because otherwise your brain is going to send signals like survival instinct signals to eat more. But I realized a lot of people were actually struggling with emotional eating, which really didn't line up with that. And it is what it says. It's like emotional eating. But I didn't have the tools at that point beyond coaching to really help people through their emotions. And I think a lot of times it's simply taking time to, understand what you're experiencing, what the emotions are, even if you don't know what to do with them, just saying them, just talking about them and acknowledging them and saying like, and that's what I'm dealing with right now. And that's the whole premise of tapping is just giving you a way to talk about them, label them, and then adding this acupressure tapping points that actually calms the stress response in the brain, the amygdala, and kind of rewires the brain. What used to be a stressful situation and a stressful response would now be one that might not elicit any fight or flight or stress response to the emotion. So it's kind of complicated there.
Why were you pulled to this aspect of life coaching? Because usually when you hear life coaching, it's more like business type thing.
Yeah. So originally to binging and overeating.
Yeah.
Well, in the business, like you're talking about with, you hear a lot about starting a business, and then most life coaching support for a business out there is saying, choose a niche. Like you've got to choose something. And I just kept on going over that and just like, I don't know, I want to help women with fulfillment and kind of break through what's holding them back, which I'm kind of working on now. But before, when I first started, that didn't seem like enough of a niche. And so I just kind of thought back to my own life, and binge eating and just struggling with food was something back in like the late 1990s, I guess, early 2000s, during university that I was struggling with. And I could really relate to needing help, looking for help, not being able to find what I needed, and having to just continue to struggle. And it took me 2 years to recover when I decided like that was enough. And so it was kind of a easy leap to just think, well, if I could be that person for someone that I needed back when I was trying to recover, then that would be awesome. So I used my own experience and I used coaching tools. And then, like I said, I just used a lot of the research I did, which was quite extensive and really fascinating. I learned a lot through that and helped a lot of people. But like I said, then there was always this kind of emotional component that I needed to learn how to navigate people through.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that matters to me. Like I find most of the stories I tell bring up things about emotion, and I think as human beings we are emotionally motivated to do pretty much everything we do, and I think dealing with emotions, positive, negative, whatever kind of emotion is a powerful thing to do, but it's also a lot of responsibility to do. You find yourself dealing with that?
Well, I don't put all the responsibility on me because I'm not trying to influence anyone's emotions. I'm not even trying to say that they have to change that, or I don't really take any of that responsibility. I just know that, and again, this is kind of coming from this more scientific, but the amygdala in our brain also is what houses our emotional memories. So, responses to events that created some emotion they get decoded there and kind of stored. And so when what you're saying is correct, like everything we do is basically as a response to little things we've learned, on our travels and when we were kids a lot, that elicited emotional response that got kind of decoded as like, well, that is really important because I got scared or I felt like something was unjust there, and there's a memory. So it's helping people not necessarily really have their own tools or kind of, what's the word, like release all their emotions, but the ones that are in the background running the show again and again and again because of one thing that happened in childhood or one memory that was stored with an emotion that makes them nervous to, speak in front of someone, or makes them have lost their confidence or whatever it is. That's where it's nice to, you can help just release one or two emotions that might have been really running the whole thing. And then, because we're obviously still going to have a range of emotions and continue having to navigate our own emotions. But often if we can, some of those emotions that we don't even know are there, like guilt over something that happened 10 years ago, might still be there, making someone stressed about something related or not. Like, it is complex and interesting, but but then kind of to turn back to your question, I don't necessarily take responsibility for that, because also there's a thought process or a talk process to it. So it's like, if that just comes up for them, all of a sudden this guilt, then it just came up, and you have to kind of take that as a sign, like they were ready to talk about that, or that was supposed to come up in that way, and there it did, and we can just talk about that and get them down to a place where it's not emotional, it's more just a memory.
Wow, that's super helpful to know, because I was thinking, oh man, don't you carry all these things? But I mean, explaining that makes a lot of sense to me. And then, are you from Halifax, Nova Scotia originally?
I grew up in Ontario.
Oh, yeah. And why did you move? When did you move? Why?
I came out here for university
as
a last minute. And actually that's where all the food stuff started, because I ended up changing high schools 4 times because we moved in the middle of high school in halfway through grade 10. And anyway, and so from my last year of high school, I was like, I'm so done here. It was a bunch of things lined up where I kind of left early, and then I was going to come back and finish up one course that I needed. And so at that time I went to visit my sister who was at Acadia. And then I went back and finished high school on time. And I just didn't feel like school. I didn't know what I wanted to do. It just didn't feel like for me, it wasn't a natural evolution of finishing high school, then you go to university. So I just gave myself space, but at the last minute I was like, well, I don't know what else I'm going to do. So then I just came out to Acadia.
And what did you study there?
Sociology and women's studies.
Why did you decide to choose that?
Well, like I said, I didn't really know what I wanted to do anyway. So I just chose a school, chose something to major in, chose something to minor in. I would have done it differently, I think at this point. But like I said, I was coming up kind of some more challenging high school years, and university was just a really nice way to regroup and just, mature and be at school. And, I got a degree, so. Yeah. But it didn't, nothing specific.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And how was it like in Acadia for you?
That was a really nice experience, but, it was kind of maybe like the pendulum swinging this way and then that way. And I feel like, because then I was still struggling with food at that point. And then after I traveled a little bit, and I think when I finally settled in Halifax, my parents had moved out here from Ontario, and now my sister and my other sister, and like
you only have sisters.
I have two sisters and a brother.
Oh, okay.
So the only one who's still in Ontario is my brother. But I think in about 2006 maybe, I moved to Halifax. And then I feel like that's where kind of my more stable, mature life started. And that was just, before that I think was all ups and downs and here and there, and not really knowing what to do or where to go, or kind of too many choices, but also feeling limited, and all this kind of weird early 20s. And
what helped you through the food, through the eating issues? What
helped me?
Yeah.
I think just deciding that there was something going on that I wanted to figure out. Because I think that's almost what I was saying before about the emotional stuff. I think a lot of people just go around with things that are there that they never pick up and look at and say, I think I should do something with this piece. And I feel like even though the eating struggle was such a huge thing in my life, I never really picked it up and said like, I think I should maybe figure this out. I just kind of was like, I'm living through this. I'm trying to navigate this. And so I think at that time, I was just ready to be like, this is something I need to do. And so then I was like, hey, family, I want to deal with this. Like something's going on. And so, just sharing, reaching out for help where I could, trying to get professional help, which didn't really help. And then just time, just knowing that I had a goal. And I wasn't in a rush because I didn't really know how to navigate it perfectly. But I would say about 2 years. And ultimately I was traveling. I had taught in Korea, and then I was traveling after university. And then I was traveling with a guy that for 3 months we traveled through Asia, and he just ate breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and like started with a big breakfast and ate whatever. And I kind of got to just model the way he ate. Like, it's breakfast time, we just eat a big breakfast. And it's lunch, we eat a big lunch. And we go get a Coke sometimes. And sometimes, like, it was just so natural. And I had always been overthinking it. So I think just modeling his eating style and, being in another country where we're going to have like rice and eggs for breakfast, or a big baguette with, just kind of not cereal. And it just kind of reset the way I looked at food. And also it gave me that, more physiological foundation to not be looking for food elsewhere, because I was nourishing my body in a way that maybe I hadn't been before. So then it just kind of was able to resolve itself. And also I was maturing, and I was traveling and just becoming more confident in who I was. And it was just a really good coincidence. And that was kind of like the end of this 2-year struggle that I had been on to resolve struggling with food.
How was it in Korea? South Korea, right?
Yeah, South Korea.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, my experience is just one. So for me, it was, again, it was challenging. I think there's a lot of times in my life I've been challenged. Like it was really interesting and fascinating. I loved when I was out there being a tourist. But then in the end, you have a job, and it's to teach little kids English who are at school all day and then coming to your English classes. In the after school times, you've got these split shifts, and our school, they had told us we're going to be in Seoul, but we are really quite far out. So we're really isolated.
Oh, wow.
So it's all these, and then there's just cultural things where we expect to maybe get paid on time, or to be like told the truth, or to not be taken around in all these circles. And so it was a really good experience, but it was challenging at the time. I remember feeling really frustrated.
Yeah.
And then you get there, and then it's like you meet people that you went to university with because they're out there teaching. And so then it's just a big, like the same thing, the same party scene. And I was kind of over that by the time I went there. I kind of wanted to not party, to just do... in my mind, it was all just those like nice, calm things, but it ended up being that's the scene to cope. It's like the way people cope out there.
And then you said you traveled through Asia. Which other places did you see?
We went to China for a month, which was amazing. Really great, because it's not.
How was that?
It was awesome. It was the
did
best.
you just how many cities? Did you go to different cities in China?
Yeah. Gosh, I wouldn't remember them now, but yeah, I just flew into Shanghai, and then from there it was like buses and trains, and we went to all kinds of places.
Did you get to the wall?
No, that was a bit north,
okay.
like closer to Beijing, and Shanghai is kind of moving like south and westward, so we kind of went west and then south to Laos and Cambodia and Vietnam.
Oh, wow.
And it was awesome.
Did you fly to those countries or bus?
No, it was all bus.
Oh, man. Like it was super long rides, right?
Yeah, there was some overnight rides and some rides where you'd literally see like a bus down the cliff.
What?
And then you'd be there. You can always just be thankful you survived, basically.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's good to do that stuff when you're young, because now I would overthink that a little bit. Yeah.
And then when did you move back to Canada?
Yeah, so I think I graduated in 2004, 5, it must have been 2006. I tried Korea one more time because I just, the problem also with traveling is it's like the world is my oyster, but then you're limited by just kind of, you don't really know what you want, I think, if you've been in this, that's how I felt at least, like being in this travel circuit and teaching, and I could do anything and I could go anywhere. But the question is like, well, what am I really looking for? So I didn't know at that point where I was at. So I thought maybe Korea was the answer again. So this time I went to a small island on the south called Jeju. It's a beautiful like volcanic island, but I only stayed for 2 months. I was like, I am out of here.
Was it a better experience this time?
It was a little better, but I went by myself. And then it wasn't really. No, I came back. Yeah, I went.
And then did you get straight into walking right away when you came back?
Gosh, after that, to be honest, I went to Scotland from there, thinking I would just stay. Well, all my ideas was like, I'll just stay and settle in Scotland. I don't know why. I just felt like I had to settle somewhere that wasn't home. But no, it didn't. That didn't work out for very long. I had a friend there, and it was good. But I was like, I think I just have to go home. But it was wonderful there. It was lovely. I'd love to go back and see more. But yeah, then I got back home, and then a friend who had also recently come home from Korea was like, I'm going to do this teaching English certification here that's legit. And so I did it with her, and then that's the job I had for 10 years. It was like a federally funded program. It's all across Canada to teach our newcomers, our immigrants and refugees English. So yeah, for 10 years I was working with lots of amazing people from countries I had never even heard of before. More recently, like the Syria influx, and it was awesome. It's such a great experience because, then you really know some of those people, and you just see everyone so much more like you're not judging people or thinking that you don't know about their culture. It's like I do know about quite a few new cultures that I wouldn't have known of otherwise. And yeah, everyone's so lovely. So
did any of the things you experienced while traveling help in this new career, this new job you are doing?
I think it just kind of helped people trust me more, maybe. Like, oh yeah, I've been to your country, like would be amazing. But otherwise, just like that I taught there, or I'd been there, or that I made a friend there while I was traveling, or I think just that comfort that I think for my students that, maybe that I just had some experience and I wasn't just looking at the world through one tiny view. But, I think that helped in that way.
Okay. And then starting the business, how's the experience of going from kind of like something stable to doing it yourself?
That's a good way to put it. It's tough. Like, to be honest, it's really tough. There's some times where my commitment and belief are super high that things flow so easily. And then maybe you don't get a client for a month, or, there's something there, or like something you were really planning on just kind of fell through, and just like that, you can, at least this, again, all my experience, I can just be like, what am I doing? How am I supposed to, my belief will somehow just plummet. And then after a few days, it'll come back up. But I really do notice this huge roller coaster, and it is all because of the stability or the lack of stability. And you keep on having to turn to yourself to be the one to be like, you can do it, like keep going. When you're working by yourself, it's really, you only have yourself. You can hopefully have some supportive people around you, but it's you who has to believe in it. And if that at all wavers, then you can get into a bit of a space where then energetically, you're just not doing the things that you need to do. You're not sending out the right, energy for people, or maybe not taking people up on their requests because you're kind of in a funk or something like that. So I find that challenging.
And when you get in a funk, like you said, how do you handle that while, you're kind of running your business?
Yeah. Well, it's always good to just get back to the work. So like whenever I'm with clients, I'm like, that's amazing. Like, I love this. I don't want to be doing anything else. So that's always helpful. And, but it's in that downtime, in the time where it's like, I really put this time aside for doing some marketing or researching that piece that I don't know about yet, that I really have to, that's like staring at me like a big wall in front of me. Like, I just have to get over this. That's the times that are hard to know what to do. And I find just being compassionate and being like, well, maybe it's not, maybe I just need to wait a couple days. And sometimes it will happen like that, where literally I wake up, I'm just like, this is so gonna work. Like, I just feel good. I feel really committed. My belief is really high again. And I don't see a way that it wouldn't work. And so I just let myself have those times, and normally wake up one day and it's all good again.
Yeah,
So.
I know that feeling. It's like, okay, you have days where you are all set to go, but then that's one thing, and that's kind of like how we clients and stuff. But how do you handle being the person that's pretty much you're the business, and on days when you are physically unable to, say you're sick or for whatever reason, how do you navigate that?
Well, it's really great because my clients are all just people. So it's not corporate. It's not, it's not these crazy deadlines that someone is expecting something huge. Like, so everybody that I work with is just a person who's very understanding. I think there was just one day so far where I've really had to be like, I'm sorry, I'll need to reschedule our call. And that just works, it's like, okay, it's tomorrow, sure, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
So, in terms of that the one-on-one time with my clients, that's easy to do. Yeah, I would just say it's more like the background work that actually needs my energy because it's not being produced naturally by working and talking with someone, right? It's like it's got to be produced from within. Being alone in my house, like work from home. Yeah, so those are the times.
And I gotta ask this one, like, you're doing what you love, you're doing what you enjoy and stuff, but how about the admin stuff for you?
Yeah.
I hate it.
It sucks, doesn't it?
I hate it.
Yeah, no, it's awful. I mean, I'm kind of a numbers person anyway, so I like to be organized and I like numbers, but I didn't like taxes this year, and it really made me think that I just need to get some support with some of these things. But I find it all really tough because there's part of me that's always been someone that wants to just do it all. Like, I'm capable of all of it. Why can't I just learn all of it and do all of it? But it's just not working out well that way, because there's certain things that are easy and you like doing them, but then when you realize that the things like the admin work that you don't like doing just doesn't get done, or even though I can do it, does that mean I should do it? Like, maybe I should get someone else to help me. I'm finding that in general with marketing. Like, I thought I would love marketing because I'm creative and I have ideas and stuff, but in the end, like, I just don't get some of the specific marketing platforms and what I should be looking for in like the return of marketing and, besides new clients. But I find that piece challenging, like beyond just the talking with people and, but kind of like the online marketing.
Yeah. And well, before I get to the online thing, how do you handle getting to a point where okay, maybe I need to hand this over to someone, especially being someone that just feels like I can do it, I can learn it?
Well, I haven't got there yet. I still feel like there's a lot that I should just learn more about. But I think it's coming soon. Somehow I think with the couple years that have gone by, it's like maybe the way I designed it isn't the best. Like, maybe it is better to get some help. Maybe it's not great to be like, I can do everything myself. Like, I think it actually slows me down a lot. Yeah, so I'm kind of starting to change my mind on that perspective, even though that's just what I came into it with, and that's just kind of me.
Yeah.
So, but I'm seeing that it's not the best.
Yeah. And then when we started, so you were talking about the EFT thing. So I remember reaching out to you and talking about tapping.
Yes.
And oh God, what's his name?
Gary Craig.
Gary Craig. So I'm just gonna play this little clip from Gary, and then we'll talk about it.
Okay.
EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques, and it's an emotional version of acupuncture, except we don't use needles. Instead, we address emotional issues. The emotional contributor to disease and ailments and physical things is far greater than the emphasis that's been given to it to date. All of us know intuitively that if we're carrying around angers and griefs and guilts and traumas, it shows up physically. If somebody is really angry, their stomach is tight, maybe the veins down out on their neck, their blood pressure goes up. Emotions cause physical things. Well, you keep that body a long period of time, now you're looking at diseases.
So Gary Craig, I keep forgetting his name because he has two first names. How did you find out about tapping in the first place?
I think tapping is one of those things, if you're in the kind of personal growth, like kind of seeking, I think it just makes its way in there somehow. I don't know how I first heard about it, but somehow it started to become a little bit familiar that there is this tool, this modality where you are literally just tapping on parts of your face and your hand and stuff. And it's kind of weird to look at. So I think once you see it once, you're like, oh, I recognize that.'t seen that before. And then it was more recently, I was interested because I'd seen it so much, and it was in a a documentary on Netflix called Heal. And then there's someone locally who does it, Al Rody. And I just went to one of his meetups, his tapping meetups. And he took me, as he does with everyone, like, what do you want to talk about? Or do you have anything? And I just thought of something that had been on my mind recently. And yeah, he just took me through like a couple tapping rounds. And I just found it so crazy because before I knew it, I was like crying. I didn't even know why. It was just kind of the language he was using and having me repeat while I tapped on these points. And
you were doing it on yourself?
Yeah. So the practitioner will just model what to do. Also they'll model the language. So what they want you to say. And yeah, before I knew it, I was just kind of had released some emotion. And I'm someone who, there's a range there, but I don't cry easily. And I guess you would also say that I don't have that kind of release of emotion, especially in a public thing. Like that seemed really strange.
It wasn't one-on-one?
No, it was a meetup group. So there was maybe only 5 or 6 of us there. But, just having that, just being taken there so quickly to this place where I was able to really feel like it touched on something that was really important to me, and even maybe from my past a little bit, seemed a little bit like kind of profound to me. Like, wow, what was that? How did that happen? And why do I feel so good now? So I went to one more, and a similar thing happened. And that day I didn't have so much, so I just watched him work with a bunch of other people there, and just the transformations that some people are having with physical ailments in the moment. One woman was suffering from a post-traumatic head injury, and she was always feeling a lot of pain in her head. And, within a short time, that was gone for her, maybe momentarily, or, who knows. Tapping has this notion of like being a 1-minute wonder for some, especially for pain and ailments and stuff like that. But really tapping, especially for emotional things or symptoms caused by emotional stuff, can take, lots and lots of sessions. Yep. It's still, a kind of therapy that can take a long time. But when you see people resolving things in a couple minutes or having an emotional release in a couple minutes, it just turned me on to it. So then there was a World Tapping Summit that was online, and I listened to that like for 7 days in a row, and multiple speakers and lots of research, and lots of stuff that just took me a little bit deeper into it. I got really excited. And so then I decided to just do a certification, which, as Gary Craig is the founder, but he's given everything's on his website for free. You can, it's quite dated, so it's a little bit hard to navigate, but you can learn all about tapping, how to do it. He'll send you over to videos to watch demonstrations. But I did my certification through someone else. But it's one of these kind of, it's out there. There's lots of ways you can get certified. Yeah. But it all comes back to the work of Gary Craig. So. And
how long did he take you to get the certification?
Well, it all depends on how quickly you can.
It's all up to the person, pretty much.
Yeah, and how quickly you can find people to practice tapping on, which is, I would say, the roadblock for a lot of people. It's like.
Okay. So you do the course, and then you're kind of certified based on number of hours, like.
Kind of. It's more just. Like, you learn, you do some practice with other people in the course, and you're expected to do some practice with people outside the course. Life, yeah. And then it's kind of, one of the last assignments is like share in depth about 5 experiences, 5 new full session experiences. So it's just kind of organizing yourself. But the actual learning of tapping doesn't take long. People do, for example, Al Rody, I know he used to be doing like a level 1 certification, which is just tapping on yourself in a full day, like in an 8-hour day. And it takes less than that. But to learn all the different techniques.
How many levels of the...
There's like level 1, 2, 3, and then you can be a master.
Oh, okay.
So, and I'm just so at the beginning. Like,
are you going to go that far? Or?
Well, I mean, it really is very interesting to me. And that's coming from someone who is more academically inclined. And so when I'm also reading research about it, it just continues to be like, this is some sort of like weird magical healing over here, but it's kind of rooted in something we get. Like I get that it's my amygdala that's, holding on to a stress response to, the way someone just said something to me and I'm triggered. Like, so what's with that, and how is that impacting me? Like that's all happening on an energetic level, but with my brain. So there's parts of it that I can really understand in science, but then other parts of it that no one really gets. Like, how does it work that, you're tapping on these points that are in the kind of Chinese way, the meridians, the energy systems in your body, the lines, and they are supposed to send messages back and release block emotion, but that's kind of where there's this element of just magic. Like, I don't really get how you can have a pounding headache. I worked with a client a few weeks back, and she had lockjaw. Like, her jaw, she was so stressed that her jaw had just kind of seized. And she couldn't chew and she couldn't eat. And, everything was just like so gentle. And just within like 45 minutes, she was like, I'm good. I don't feel that pain anymore. Yeah. Okay. And you like test it out, and I don't get it, but it's so fascinating to me that it actually works.
Wow.
It's also really the best tool that's out there now for helping people with PTSD.
I was going to ask that, but yeah.
Yeah. So like beyond traditional therapy and talk therapy, it's similar, and it's not like it's happening in one session, but maybe I forget the numbers, but something like 6 sessions versus 10 sessions where people are getting results. But the thing also with this is often if you can release your emotional connection, negative emotional connection to something from the past, like PTSD, like a traumatic memory, if you can release that with tapping, you're done. Like it doesn't, if you really have all the different aspects of that scenario released, then it doesn't come back. Like you're just freed from that. I haven't done any tapping of my own with people with PTSD, but it's something that's in the literature. Like they've done a lot of studying with PTSD with tapping.
And so now like with the practice, do you find that clients that you worked with binge eating, do they use tapping now?
Yeah, it's been a bit of a gentle process because I remember it was weird for me when I first heard about it. So I don't want to be like, I've got this thing. And they're like, what? I signed up for you for something different, right? But it's been a good progression. So I've got some people who are working with me more long-term, and then it's easy for me to say like, well, I'm working with this new tool. Do you want to do that in our next session?
Yeah,
and so they'll just say yes.
Gotcha.
And then people that are just signing on, I'm understanding that some people need a little of this and some people need a little of that. So I've got one client now where we're basically only doing tapping, and she's on board because she gets it because it's all emotional for her. So that's going well. And I think that's going to be until I really know what's going on and what I'm landing with. Like you said, like, am I going to go all the way up there with EFT? And until I know, just get more experience, I guess. I'll keep on seeing what it seems like each person needs, but it could be in the end that I'm all EFT and very diversified in who needs help with what, right? Because it really is something that you can use on many, many different things, including this, physical symptoms and emotional stuff, or something that seems like it's not related at all, but has some component.
I'm gonna end it with this though. I know you're going through a rebranding. You brought EFT tapping into this, and then you actually, we've talked about pretty much your journey to this point, right? Ending with this question: where are you taking all you've got, like where you are with all the knowledge you've had? Where are you taking it to?
Yeah, I mean, it's, okay, so totally honest, I'm not feeling connected with the binge eating and emotional eating personally. And I did have to dig that up from my past in order to provide it for people. So I'm because it was so far in my past and is so resolved, I'm feeling a bit stuck in that. Like it's not really what I relate to now. So I'm expanding. So I think I'll probably end up moving away from food completely in the future. And yeah, I guess ultimately where I stand now, I'm finding such amazing power within EFT, the tapping, that I guess it is the truth that I would say ultimately I would be all EFT and be very diversified, just have not necessarily even have some specific specialties, but just let people know where it helps and they could come. I almost imagine that like you would just go see a therapist regardless of what was going on. You would know they're a therapist and you would just go to them. I guess that would be the dream with EFT, that people get familiar with it, and that would be part of the marketing, of course, and being out there in public and showing people what it is, and that people would come to me with a bunch of different things, and then I can continue expanding and learning and, you know, having that not so boxed in like it was with food.
Thank you very much, Andrea.
Yeah,
before you go, what's your website again?
Just AndreaLussing.com.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks so much for having me.
This is the Blackout Podcast. Thanks for listening.